Hola, hola, and welcome to the Cultura Cash podcast. This is Gigi, your host. I am a influencer, financial educator, and author of Cultura Cash. April marks 1 year since I left the US to move to Spain. I cannot believe it's been a year already. Time has flown. And in this episode, I'm going to answer your questions about what life has been like 1 year post move. There will actually be several episodes about this 1 year mark because I have a lot to share. This is one that's very much focused on questions, and then I will create more content on insights and reflections that I've had 1 year abroad. First, a quick reminder. I want to let you know that I will be in Milwaukee to do a book signing. It's been a while since I did a book signing. The last one was in Phoenix last September. So I'm excited to be back out there and meet you and be in community. It will be in Milwaukee at Boswell Books on May 14th. We're going to be having an author reading, a signing, a meet and greet. The event is completely free and you can register at the link in my show notes. If you are not in Milwaukee, but you have friends or family in the area, please encourage them to attend this event because it's going to be a great event. All right, so let's dive into these questions. These questions were submitted via Instagram. The first question, I like it. It says, why did you choose Spain and not Mexico? Soy chismosa. I am too. So let's get into that. Number one, when we were looking to move abroad, for me, it was important to feed that inner young adult that wanted to study abroad but didn't have the opportunity to. For me, that feeling wouldn't have been satisfied by going to Mexico because that's the motherland for me. I've lived 10 years in Mexico, so it wouldn't be something new and exciting for me, but it was definitely an option. That option quickly was off the table when we found out that David is not authorized to work in Mexico. He has a traditional W-2 job. He works 100% remotely, and he was not able to get a work transfer there if he wanted to because his employer doesn't have any Mexican entities that he can work for. So that wasn't even an option. He would have had to switch jobs, and he really likes his role. So that's really the primary reason. And also me wanting to fulfill this desire to move abroad and experience Europe. The other reason, big reason, was because Spain has the 2-year fast track for Latin Americans that have citizenship of those countries. So I am a dual citizen. I have the US citizenship and Mexican citizenship. After 2 years of having status here in Spain, I am able to apply for citizenship. So that's really exciting. That's coming up soon, and I will share more details about that in a different episode because, like I said, that's its own thing to cover. The other reason is I wanted to have the access to easily travel to other parts of Europe, and we've been able to do that. We've been to Germany in this last year. We've been to Italy. We just came back from Scotland. We've been to other parts of Spain, and that's been great. So it really is nice to get to travel within Europe at this point of our lives. The second question is Spain welcoming to foreigners? I hear in some places they're very racist. So I will say I personally have not experienced any anti-immigration sentiment. I haven't been called any slurs. I haven't been verbally attacked or anything like that. But of course it exists. I know from other people's experiences. I also know from being in the comment section on a lot of Spanish media outlets, I'll be on their Instagram page, and whenever there's an update about immigration policy, there's always the haters, just like in the US, right? That have a thing to say about, oh, we don't need more immigrants. Immigrants are ruining Spain. That's the keyboard warriors online. But personally, me, in my little bubble that I'm here in Valencia, I have not experienced that. I will also say it depends on where in Spain you live. It's very well known that the south of Spain is very warm. The people are very friendly. I'm sure there's still racism like there is everywhere else in the world, but from what I've heard, it's typically in the north of Spain where people can be a little bit more anti-immigrant. So me being on the East Coast in this big city, there's a lot of diversity. So I have not experienced that myself. But on the topic of being racist, I will say this with my chest. Unfortunately, there is a lot of Islamophobia here. So that's something that was a little rattling to me as an American, where we're taught that all creeds, all religions should be respected. And here they're openly Islamophobic. Obviously, that's not everybody. but I've had conversations with taxi drivers, with nail techs, with people one-on-one where they make these comments. And it's very interesting to experience that. There's a historical component to it too, where the Muslims overtook Spain for 600 years. And honestly, they're still salty about it and they still talk about it. So yeah, the colonizer complaining about being colonized. So that's a factor too. But from my viewpoint, I think what it typically takes is most people want immigrants that come here to work, to contribute to society, to learn Spanish, and to not expect the Spanish people to adapt to them. You're coming here and they want you very much to assimilate to the way that they do life. All right. And the next question is, what were your biggest challenges in adapting to your new life? I had to think about this. Obviously, there's a lot and little challenges, I say, but the big ones that really took a while to adjust were these two. So one, adapting to feeling more disconnected from my friends and family in the US because of the huge time difference, especially me being originally from California. A lot of my friends and family are in California or in Baja California. So it's a 9-hour time difference. That's a big time difference. So typically when I'm ending my day, my work day, they are just getting up and starting theirs. So at first, the first 3 or 4 months, I used to stay late, like after midnight, to stay in touch with my dad, be sending memes, responding to funny videos, and just being in touch like I always was when I was stateside. But that would affect my sleep. It would affect the next day, and I just didn't feel very good and I wasn't productive. So I'm like, okay, something has to change. And I finally realized that I would just have to be comfortable and they would have to be comfortable with sending things via internet and me not responding right away or them not responding right away because they're asleep. It's kind of like, I don't know, we're playing like messenger bottle and they get it when they get it and they respond when they respond. But it's a way that I've still been able to stay connected. The second biggest challenge in adapting to my new life abroad is something I've talked about over and over in this podcast, and I will never shut up about it because it's just so different. And that's filing taxes as a small business owner. In the US, I was used to just paying quarterly estimated taxes and filing my taxes once a year. And here we have to file every quarter. So we file 4 quarters plus an annual one. And it took some getting used to because that meant that my bookkeeping had to be ready to go because we had to do those regular tax filings, as well as paying real taxes. Like estimated taxes were usually a little under, but here they're taking a big cut of my taxes every quarter. So I have to be financially prepared for that too. Other than that, I'm pretty adaptable. I'm pretty resilient as first gen, but also as somebody who truly grew up bicultural. As a border town kid, I really had one foot in one country and the other foot in the other. So I'm able to easily navigate that, I think, compared to most people who maybe they would just vacation in their motherland once a year, or maybe they went a few times in their life. We also moved a lot as children. So my parents would move a lot for work. And as an adult, I've moved a lot to different states for different job opportunities. So it hasn't been too bad for me personally. All right. And we are on to the next question, which is, has it been easy to make local friends as opposed to expats? Great question. And yes, it is hard to make friends with Spanish people because Spanish people have lived here their whole lives and they have their friends and their family and their hobbies that they do. They're not really looking for new friends. Think about it wherever you live, right? So I'm thinking of when I was in Chicago and I had a very full life with work, with my relationship, with my friends, and somebody randomly comes from, let's say, Italy, and they want to make an American friend, which would have been me. Like, I wouldn't have been out there looking for that person. Like, oh, let me connect with this new Italian person that immigrated here. How would I have known about them, right? So if they weren't already within my circle, it would have been hard for me to connect with that person. And that exact thing is happening to me here. So yes, it is hard to make friends with Spanish people unless you are working with them, which I don't. I work for myself and I work from home. Unless you're going to school with them, which I'm not at this point. Unless you're dating, right? If I was out here in these streets meeting people instead of being an old, boring married lady, I think I would have definitely met more Spanish people that way. If you volunteer with them or do regular hobbies with them, that's also a way to be in those spaces and potentially build those connections. Or if you have school-age children and you're really involved in the parent-teacher student activity life, I don't even know what that's called, but in that lifestyle, right, of being involved with other parents and getting to know them that way. So unless you have similar hobbies or a similar lifestyle where you're seeing them all the time, it doesn't really lend itself to create meaningful relationships. I joined a Pilates studio 2 months ago, hoping that I could connect with some Spanish friends that way, which I am loving, by the way. It's right by my apartment. It's a short 5-minute walk. And there are a lot of Spanish locals that go to that Pilates studio, but I haven't been able to build relationships, and I don't think I will, because people very much go to get their workout in and leave. There really isn't space to connect or build relationships. I don't see the Pilates studio as somewhere where I can make friendships. It's a great place to get a workout, and that's why I'm going to keep going, but not a great place to make new friends. And if you think about it, if you watched Emily in Paris, she had a very full life in Paris and was able to make friends quickly because she worked with French people. She went to language school and met other people there. In her apartment building, it seems like she was surrounded by people her age. So she was able to build relationships that way. In the future, I am definitely interested in volunteering, specifically at the rescue where I got Mia, my sweet angel baby, who's right next to me as I'm recording this episode. Right now, I don't have the bandwidth to fit that in to my day, but I'm really looking forward to being able to do that in the future, potentially connecting with some Spanish locals that way. All right, so we have a few more questions on the same topic. Somebody asked, how have you built community? So I shared that I have not been able to connect with Spanish locals. Luckily, I have been able to form relationships with other people, other immigrants just like me. So I've met a lot of people in the year that I've been here. I would say I have a lot of friendly acquaintances. I still very much rely on my US friends and my family for emotional support. But it's fun to be able to grab lunch with somebody or grab coffee or go for a walk in the park. But I'm still working on building those relationships. So the way that I've been able to build community in the last year has been through friends of friends, somebody saying, oh, you moved to Valencia, let me connect you with my cousin who's studying there. Or, oh, my old coworker moved there too, let me connect you too. So that's been how I've been able to meet other women, and it's been great. Because they're friends of friends, they're typically from the US as well and immigrated here just like I did. We will speak in English and we talk a lot about the immigration journey of being somebody that's coming from the US to Spain and adapting to this lifestyle. So we have a lot of common ground there. So besides friends of friends, I've also recently tapped into other communities. There's a lot of different ways to find communities, whether you're abroad or stateside and you're looking to make new connections. There's meetups that you can attend for different interests. So one is called Sync Social, and I like them because I went to an event where they did coffee and Spanish practice. So that really spoke to me. It was very much for English speaking immigrants that are here and that want to practice their Spanish. For someone like me who's self-employed and I work remotely, I don't get the opportunity to speak as much Spanish as I want to. At home, I speak English with my husband. So there isn't the opportunity to practice. So this event was really attractive to me to be able to connect with other people that are also looking to practice their Spanish and here on a similar journey as me. And what's nice about this specific group is that I was thinking it was going to be all US digital nomads, but I was pleasantly surprised to see that there were people from Germany, people from Italy, people from Peru, Bolivia, different parts of the world all coming to Valencia just to pursue a different lifestyle. The other group that I recently did an event with was Mujeres Latinas in Valencia. They had an event where they had a samba teacher come and teach us beginner samba. So that was fun. I actually used to do samba 10 years ago. It's a great workout if you haven't done it because it's so fast paced. It's all cardio. So I've been wanting to get back to it and I came up on my IG feed. So I'm like, okay, I need to go. So I met those women this past weekend and I was the only Mexican in the group, but there were women from all over Latin America. So mostly Colombian, Venezuelan, Brazilian. I met a Honduran woman. So that was nice. And that group was mostly Spanish speaking. So I got the opportunity to speak Spanish with them. They also get together and do different activities all over the city. They do workout classes together. I saw a class about Makeup Basics 101 to learn how to do your makeup. So I'm excited to do more events with that group. The other group that I was told about is called the Offline Club, I think it's called, and they have them actually all over the world. So if you're looking to find a third space to connect with people, whether you're in LA, in New York City, in Chicago, you can look for the chapter of that group in your city. And it's a great way to connect with people. I haven't been to their event yet, but I signed up for a sip and paint that's coming up. So that'll be fun. I like to be creative and use my hands. So I'm very much looking forward to that. I'm also putting myself out there by going to co-working spaces. I've always heard that co-working spaces are a good place to be around other like-minded folks. I like my workspace. I like my cute little desk, and I like having the bathroom here and having the TV close and taking a break. And I know that with the co-working space, it's very much feeling like corporate again. But I'm challenging myself to do a co-working space every other week. I think is a good cadence for me to get out the house and just explore different areas in the city, try different restaurants. So I'm looking forward to that. Okay, so we have two more questions, and they are both about healthcare and health. So let's dive in. This next question is, did you have any healthcare needs there? If so, how did you manage them? Yes. So because I pay into the Social Security system, I am eligible for free universal healthcare here in Spain. I have not gone through the process of applying for that because David and I talked and we decided that we wanted private health insurance. And the reason for that is because although we've heard great things about the Spanish public healthcare system, that it's high quality, good service, we've also heard that it can take a while to get an appointment. So let's say that your throat is sore and you want to go see a doctor, you'll have to wait like 2 or 3 weeks to be able to see a doctor. And with private health insurance, you're able to see somebody that same week, if not the next day. So that was very attractive to us, especially because the cost is pretty affordable. So we bought private health insurance with Sanitas, and it costs $80 a month to have access to faster care. When you compare that to the $200 that I was paying for my health insurance in the US, it's much cheaper and it's good quality care. People are friendly. There's an app where you can schedule everything, so you don't even have to call to make appointments. It's very, very modern. What's been nice is that there is no copays, there are no deductibles, no co-insurance, no bill after my appointment. So because I paid for my monthly premium, I am all set to go. I can go and I don't have to think about an additional cost holding me back to go get something checked out. So it's been really nice change from what the situation was in the US for me. So yes, what kind of healthcare needs have I had since I've been here? I would say a lot of the routine stuff. So I've been to the dentist for a teeth cleaning, was told I have beautiful teeth and excellent dental hygiene, which I appreciated. I floss every day. It's a pain in the ass, but it's worth it. And I'm also in talk therapy. Yeah, I can do it in person, but I prefer to do it virtually. I just started doing that this year. And I do it in Spanish. Sometimes I get stuck with my therapist and I'll tell her the word in English, and she understands what I'm saying because she speaks English too. I've also been to the gyno because I thought that I was having perimenopause symptoms because I wasn't sleeping well and I felt hot flashes. They tested my hormones and it turned out that my hormones were just what they were supposed to be, and it was actually stress related. So that was fine to get through all that. What I've definitely used the most has been my psychiatrist. I've seen her a lot, either virtually, on the phone, or in person. And that was because I have to refill my prescription that I've had for antidepressants since 2023. I've been on Prozac and on Xanax. So that was actually one of the first things that I did when I got here. I had to figure out my psychiatrist situation because although I did come with a supply of my medication from the US, I knew that it was going to run out and that I would have to get with the psychiatrist to have access to those medications. I am fluent in Spanish, so for me, it hasn't been a challenge to go to the doctor or the dentist or any of these appointments. Of course, I don't know all the medical terms that I need to know in Spanish. So if I didn't know a term, I would point to that place in my body, or I would say it in English. And most doctors speak some English at least, so they would understand what I meant. At the very worst case scenario, I'd look it up very quickly on Google Translate and it would come up, but that has not been a problem at all. It's been really easy to navigate. And the last question is, have you noticed improvements in your health living outside the US? This is a great question. I know that it's something that's always talked about when people leave the US, how they notice the benefits in their body and their health. I would say for me, definitely my nervous system feels more balanced here. And that's just because of the slower pace of life. It's not like the hustle culture that I was in Chicago. I mean, I definitely could have been in different parts of the US and also had a more balanced nervous system. But being in the big city, it was hard, right? Because you just felt like you had to be doing something because everybody else was doing something. So here with things going a little bit slower, some shops closing for siesta time in the summer when it's really hot, a lot of shops closing on Sundays to spend time with their family. So with the culture here, it does feel that I can relax more. There's also a lot of holidays. They're very respected. Shops and restaurants are closed. So it's nice, again, to know that you can truly relax and rest. I also think a lot of that has to do with being less affected by Trump's fascist regime. I'm not physically living in the chaos that is happening with his policies. So that helps. Although I will say it is nice to have that physical distance, but mentally and emotionally, I still feel it. I still feel the chaos. I think a lot of people that I've met when they move here, they kind of unsubscribe from all the US outlets because they're like, that's not my problem anymore. For me, I want to stay informed. I'm very current on what's going on, so it still affects me mentally and emotionally. One of the things that did take me by surprise is that after 3 or 4 months of living here, I felt this weight off my shoulders that I didn't even realize was affecting me. And it was this notion that I would never have to file bankruptcy over medical debt while living here because the healthcare is so much more affordable. I didn't realize that that was something I constantly thought about in the US, but I think subconsciously I did. Of I could be one emergency away. What if I get a terminal disease that just wipes out any savings, any investments that I have? So that has been really good for my stress levels to know that that's not going to be a problem that I'm going to face here. I also feel less stressed overall. I have an Oura ring and it keeps track of all that. And the data shows that my stress levels have gone down and that I'm more resilient, which I love. And lastly, I think this shows a lot about my mental health. I've actually been able to decrease my dosage of my Prozac. So I used to be on 60 milligrams of Prozac, and gradually I've been able to decrease it to 20 milligrams with my psychiatrist. So I think she's going to have me on 20 milligrams for a while. It's just one little pill. And I feel good. I mean, before I remember trying to take down my dosage in Chicago from 60 to 40. And I felt this tension in the jaw. I felt tightness in my chest. And here there has been some adjusting to the different dosage levels, but it hasn't been anxiety related. I think the longer that I'm here, I might notice more differences. So I'm excited to see how that develops. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for submitting your questions. If you have any more, feel free to DM me on Instagram or email me at hi@thefirstgenmentor.com. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts because it adds credibility to the show. Thanks for listening and hasta la próxima.